Of the Hispanic Patriot, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines in Denver, Colorado. Here we speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. And now, without further ado, here's the host of the Hispanic Patriot, Hugo Chavez Ray. Hey, Hugo.
Hello, Peter. Welcome everyone to a new edition of the Hispanic Patriot. We are going to be discussing some very topical issues tonight. One, not the least of which, is a item called Proposition HH that is going to be coming up on the Colorado ballot. And it's a sneaky attack by the Democrats to try to get more revenue. They're always after more revenue, of course. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about some Trump news, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about the Putin situation, and what's going on with Putin and some of the people that are opposing him. So there's some interesting news out there about what's going on in Russia, and Putin might be in danger of being assassinated, from what I'm hearing. So it's going to be an interesting hour. So we're going to get right into it. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with this Proposition HH that is going to be coming up in Colorado. The property taxes in Colorado, for example, the property tax revenue in Colorado is collected by local governments and funds county government, public schools, junior colleges, and special districts. Colorado has not had a statewide property tax since 1964. And the state sets assessment rates, and local governments set the tax rate for the mills, as they're called, that are levied on the assessed value of the property. So, for example, a $100,000 home, and that's a laugh. I don't know of any $100,000 home in Colorado. Must be a shack somewhere. But for the purposes of the text that I'm looking at here, it says, for example, a $100,000 home, the 2023 assessment rate of 6.765% means that $6,765 is taxable. The local government's tax rate would apply to the $6,765. So, for example, a tax rate of 100 mills equal to mills times 1,000 would mean that $676.50 would be owed for property taxes on the house of $100,000. Okay, so multiply that out. Most houses, I think the mean cost of a home in Colorado is somewhere in the 500,000 range. So multiply that number by 5, and you're looking at well over $3,000 in property taxes each year. And that's not counting other taxes and fees that they add on. They've gotten really clever. Tabor, which is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, prohibits the government in Colorado from raising taxes without the approval of the voters. Well, what they want to do is make an end run around Tabor. Each year, at the end of the fiscal year, the state has to report whatever surplus there is, and there's been surpluses the last 2 or 3 years. And when there's a surplus, the law says that the citizens, the taxpayers, are entitled to a refund of whatever they paid in, based on a percentage of their income. And we'll go over the table and how that goes. But the Democrats have been forever trying to destroy Tabor because they don't like the fact that they can't just raise taxes at will without approval of the voters. They want to do away with that. Now, in the last election, there was an Amendment B, as it was called in 2020, that was to repeal the Gallagher Amendment. Now, the Gallagher Amendment was something that protected property tax rates. And the way it read is Amendment B repealed the Gallagher Amendment of 1982. That amendment had been on the books since 1982. It limited the residential and non-residential property tax assessment rates so that residential property taxes equaled 45% of the total share of state property taxes, and non-residential property taxes equaled 55% of the total share of state property taxes. So under Gallagher, property tax assessment rates were set in the state constitution to be 29% for non-residential property. The rate was fixed at 29% in the state constitution and could only be changed through a constitutional amendment, thus Amendment B. Amendment B repealed the 29% non-residential assessment rate, and non-residential property includes commercial property and oil and gas property. So under Gallagher, the residential property assessment rate was required to be adjusted before each 2-year assessment cycle so as to maintain the 45 to 55% split between the total share of property taxes paid between the two types of property. Residential was paying less than commercial, so people that were developers and had commercial properties obviously didn't like that because they were paying a higher percentage of the total rate. So the residential property tax assessment for 2019 and 2020 was 7.15%. As of 2020, residential property in Colorado made up about 80% of the assessed value of all property in the state. So the legislature passed a companion bill called Senate Bill 20-223, which was set to take effect alongside the constitutional amendment known as the repeal of the Gallagher Amendment. Senate Bill 223 froze the then current rate of 7.15% for residential property and 29% for non-residential property in state statute. SB 223 allowed the legislature then to reduce the assessment rate in state law. Under the Gallagher Amendment, property tax assessment rates were expected to continue to decrease at the reassessment set to occur 2021 and going forward. Therefore, repealing the Gallagher Amendment and freezing property tax rates at current levels was expected to result in higher residential assessment rates than under the Gallagher Amendment. So, due to the Colorado Taxpayer Bill of Rights, known as TABOR, the legislature could not increase assessment rates without a statewide vote of the people. So, the Gallagher Amendment repeal was another form of an end run around TABOR. They wanted to raise taxes, but they needed approval of the voters, and Amendment B provided the legislature that cushion. But the way it was worded, it basically fooled the people because TABOR limits the amount of money the state of Colorado can take in and spend. It limits the annual increase for some state revenue to inflation plus the percentage change in state population. So any money collected above this limit is refunded to the taxpayers unless the voters allow the state to spend it. The voters have never allowed the state to spend it, and of course they don't like that. They meaning the legislature, because they're money hungry and spend hungry. They're spendthrift. They don't care about saving money. They want to find ways to spend it. So uh, that's where we are right now. The fight has been ongoing for Tabor, uh, and the way that that uh, the legislature had been going, it basically knew that without some form of constitutional amendment, that they weren't going to be able to get more money as they want. So along comes this new proposition called Proposition HH.
Hmm.
And this new proposition is a way to get around Tabor. It basically would render Tabor useless in the sense of the refund to the voters, to the not the voters, the taxpayers.
Yeah.
You have to be a taxpayer to get a refund if you didn't pay in. For example, people who rent don't pay in, so they're not entitled to refunds. So uh, the the way that the the people who want to propose this amendment, and I'm going to read the text so you can hear how they've got it worded, and you tell me if you're not paying attention. Tell me what you think this means. Okay, so here's the ballot title. It says,
Go ahead.
shall the state reduce property taxes for homes and businesses? That's the first sentence. Now, what does that say to you if you're a taxpayer? Shall the state reduce property taxes for homes and businesses? What do you think about when you hear that sentence?
I don't know. It smells a little fishy.
Well,
Should the state reduce property taxes? Well, yeah, of course they should.
if you're a taxpayer, you're saying, "Oh, sure, we want to reduce this. We want the state to reduce property taxes for homes and businesses." And then it goes on to say, including expanding property tax relief for seniors. That's one of those. Instead of for the children, now it's for the seniors. Uh, so expanding property tax relief for seniors and backfill counties, water districts, fire districts, ambulance and hospital districts, and other local governments, and fund school districts by using a portion of the state surplus, aka Tabor refunds,
Right.
up to the Proposition HH cap as defined in this measure. Okay? So let's take a peek at how they want to uh, impact Tabor refunds. Okay, so the following tables show the projected impact of Proposition HH on Tabor refunds under the 6-tier refund mechanism in tax years 2023, 2024, and 2025 for single and joint filers. So the state legislature in 2023 also passed House Bill 1311, designed to provide for changes to the Tabor refund mechanism for fiscal year 2022-23. If Proposition HH is approved, in 2023, Proposition HH would require an estimated 94.3 million that would otherwise be refunded via the 6-tier sales tax refund mechanism to instead be refunded via property tax reductions paid via reimbursements to local governments.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so the
So
taxpayer
fund
the,
Jared Polis, whatever our guy, fund his retirement, right? Is that what we're
yep,
doing?
Yep. So here, in 2024 and beyond, under Proposition HH, the state would retain the following amounts that would otherwise be refunded to taxpayers: 166.6 million for fiscal year 23-24, $358.6 million for fiscal year 24-25, and larger amounts in subsequent fiscal years through at least fiscal year 2031-32.
Okay. So in a nutshell, they're proposing let's lower your taxes by eliminating your refunds, and we promise you we'll give you back some of this money, but the most of it's going to go to help seniors with their tax relief and also our local government.
Well, it doesn't even do that. Let me read you a little bit here. Here's a table showing table refund impacts under Proposition HH for tax year 2024.
Okay.
So the tax year is 2024. The adjusted gross income, let's say up to $52,000. The current law refund estimate is between $352 to $704 per taxpayer. Okay. Under Proposition HH, the estimated refund would be $320 to $640. So the change in refund for that tax group, for that earner group, is $32 less or up to $64 less. But let's move up a little more to some of the higher income or more average income in Colorado. Let's say you're earning $103,000 to $164,000. Your refund would be $540 to $1,080 under current law, or under HH, $491 to $982, for a difference of $49 to $98 less. Okay, but that's what you would see as a change in your refund. But what happens to the to what your property taxes are going to be? That's the key issue there. Okay,
All right.
so they're saying this is their selling point. Okay, as you can see, on the higher end of the scale, the taxpayer would be getting $100 to $200 less on their TABOR refund. Okay,
Okay.
assuming there's surplus and everything else.
Which that's a lot for people these days.
Of course, but here's the key. What does it do to your local property taxes in relation to that? Okay, so let's take a look at non-residential property taxes under Proposition HH. Okay, for example, a property type, and they got them listed. This one is lodging and other improved commercial properties. They're proposing that you're in 2023. Right now, the property tax is 27.85% under. No, I'm sorry. Under current law, it's 27.9. The proposed rate 27.85. Okay, 2024, 26, it goes up to 27.85. Okay, so the way the rate under current law can be as high as 29%, right? So they're saying that your property for non-residential properties, it would go down like 1 or 2%. Okay, that doesn't offset what you lose in the TABOR refund.
Right. Okay.
Let's take a look at the residential one. Under the residential, the current law is 6.765% and a $15,000 reduction. Under the assessment rate would be 6.7% and a valuation reduction of $50,000. In 24, it would go to 6.7, valuation reduction of 40,000. Notice how it went down $10,000 there. And then in 25 through 32, 6.7% with a 40,000 valuation reduction. And 2033 and later, it's a flat rate assessment of 7.15%. Okay, so
Okay.
you went from 6.7% to 7.15% in a 10-year cycle.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so and
So
then
you increase, right?
that's assuming they don't increase it further with other,
Right.
uh,
Which they will,
which they will.
especially
Yeah.
with inflation and all that. Yeah.
So Prop HH would create two new subclasses of residential property for owner-occupied primary residences and qualified senior primary residences. So let's look at senior-owned property. Okay, so 6.7, 50,000, 6.7. I don't see any
So
difference.
bottom line is the left is trying to ram in this proposition HH, and they're gonna spin it like it's a great thing for everybody. And
Mm-hmm. Well,
what
here's
are we
what they're
supposed to do?
going to tell the public. Okay,
Uh-huh.
Proposition HH would make various changes to state property taxes and changes to state revenue limits, including reducing property tax rates, creating two new subclasses of residential property effective in 2025, providing funds to local governments to make up for decreased property tax revenues referred to as backfilling, uh, or if you want to call it, what do you call it? Kickback.
Uh-huh.
That's what I call it, kickback. Creating a limit on local government property tax revenue, and creating a new cap on state revenue, which is known as the Proposition HH cap, allowing the state to retain revenue up to the newly created cap that it would otherwise be required to refund to residents under Tabor. Okay, that's what that's their selling point to the state.
Uh-huh.
So if you talk about what, we talked about the Gallagher Amendment and how they snuck that in, and people who thought they were voting to reduce property taxes actually increased them, because that was the sneaky part of it. Um, let's look at what Jared Polis has to say about this amendment. It says, Jared Polis says, because of the very strong economy, I don't know where he's living, and very strong Tabor surplus, we are able to do both. We are able to not jeopardize or cut funding for our schools and provide important property tax relief today. Senate President Stephen Fenberg said, that is the revenue that goes to support fire districts, to support libraries, schools, and that's a core part of making sure that we do this responsibly rather than just saying property taxes are too damn high. So let's cut them and not think about the impact that has downstream to our local services. State Representative Mike Lynch said, we've seen this movie before. Governor Polis and his friend in the Democrat-controlled legislature, and by the way, Mike Lynch is a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
Have looked to raid Tabor to solve economic problems they've usually created. In 2019, the governor and Democratic lawmakers ran Proposition CC that would have allowed state to keep citizens' Tabor refunds for schools, and it was rejected by 7 percentage points. Not a lot, but at least it was defeated. Hopefully, Coloradans will see through this new effort to extort their constitutionally guaranteed Tabor refunds. Michael Fields, president of Advanced Colorado Institute and leading plaintiff in a lawsuit arguing that Proposition HH violates the state's single subject rule, and contains misleading ballot language, said the repeal of the Gallagher Amendment was supposed to make things better. I opposed it because it would inevitably lead to huge increases in property taxes for Colorado families, which of course we've seen. That is exactly what we are seeing across the state. The legislature created the problem. They said they would come up with a solution, and they didn't. Now the governor and legislature want us to give up our Tabor tax refunds for a tiny bit of property tax relief. It's another bad idea. Okay? So why is this ballot measure on the ballot? Let's talk about that. This measure requires voter approval under Tabor since it would increase state revenue. In Colorado, a legislatively referred state statute must be passed by a simple majority vote in each chamber of the state legislature. Legislatively referred measures do not need to be signed by the governor. Due to the Colorado Tabor statewide voter approval is required to enact any legislation to increase government revenue at a faster rate than the combined rate of population increase and inflation. You can read about Tabor and what it's about. So the measure was introduced on May 1st, 2023. After amendments on May 8th, the measure was passed by a House vote of 44-2, with 3 members absent, and in the Senate by a vote of 23-12. The measure was passed along partisan lines, with Democratic members in favor and Republicans opposed. Governor Jared Polis signed the bill on May 23rd, 2023. So this is, this is what they want to do to us. They want to fool the public into thinking this is a tax cut for a property tax cut, but they're not going to pay attention to the underhanded methods under which they're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, and disguise it as a tax cut, property tax cut for homeowners, and of course commercial properties as well. So let's look at some of the comments from some of the people that have come out against this in Colorado. They basically the supporters include Governor Jared Polis and State Senator Stephen Fenberg. That's 2. Okay, and we heard their arguments. The opposition, for example, Kim Munson, president of the Colorado Union of Taxpayers, says Coloradans are facing a historic increase in residential property tax or property values, which will result in significantly higher property taxes for homeowners and businesses. Proposition HH purports to provide property tax relief. It is really a bait and switch proposition at the expense of Coloradans and their Tabor refunds. Forever. Renters in particular lose out because their refunds will be used for short-term and small amounts of property tax relief for others. By allowing the state to retain additional revenue, our Tabor refunds, it hurts the everyday hardworking people of Colorado because the state keeps more of our money and we have less of our money. So Prop HH is a hastily proposed, convoluted, 48-page measure that further complicates our property taxes. It is time for real property tax simplification and reform for Coloradans. Sage Nauman, Vice President of Communications of 76 Group and former spokesperson for Colorado Senate Republicans, says HH is a property tax reduction of 0.0 or 0.06% in exchange for a confusing modification to the Tabor refund mechanism. Adding 1% to the Tabor cap each year may not seem like a big deal, but compounding year over year means within just a few years, Tabor refunds could be eliminated forever. It was completely unnecessary for the legislature to even approach the subject of Tabor refunds, but they simply couldn't help themselves. Then State Representative Mike Lynch says, we've seen this movie before, and that's what we already read that one. Mesa County Board of Commissioners says borrowing $20 from taxpayers and then giving back $10 is not the intent of Tabor. It is alarming that local governments were not consulted on the bill or Prop HH. We believe strongly in local solutions that are designed for local problems. However, under the guise of lowering property tax, this is an underhanded and confusing attempt to work around Tabor. In addition, the proposition itself violates the single subject rule established to protect voters in Colorado. And here's our friend Abe Layden, Douglas County Commissioner. Any way you slice it, SB 23-303 and Proposition HH do not prevent residential property tax or property owners in Douglas County from experiencing what will be the largest property tax increase in state history. That's scary, huh? Michael Fields basically we already went through with what he said. So there, it says Ballotpedia did not identify any media editorials in support of Prop HH. If you are aware of one, please send it to Ballotpedia. The opposition from the Denver Gazette editorial board says if Proposition HH passes, it'll be a windfall for the state government. It likely will be hauling in an additional $2.2 billion that otherwise would go back to taxpayers over the coming decade. For taxpayers, on the other hand, Prop HH is a raw deal. They will lose far more over time by giving up their refunds than they'll gain in modest property tax relief. Indeed, any tax relief won't come close to offsetting the soaring tax bills that are expected to rise up to 50% for some homeowners when tax bills go out next spring. In short, Prop HH wouldn't just force taxpayers to pay for their own property tax relief, it would overcharge them to grow government. Unconstitutional? It's unconscionable. So that's your boondoggle that's coming up in the next election. They're going to disguise it. My hope is that the opponents and it's interesting that something that I read that was really interesting is the money that has come out behind this this proposition. The money amounts was, and yes, I found it here. It was outrageous. It was like $10 million raised to get this passed. You have to ask yourself who is paying that, and the people that oppose it have only raised like $1,000.
So what do you think do you think they actually think this is going to help, or do you think this is just some BS facade to get more money? I mean, more tax.
When you say they, are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Jared Polis and his cronies.
No, they just want more money to spend. They have no intention of
to fund their agendas.
Yeah, that's basically all it is.
Their Tahoe vacations and whatever.
Well, I mean
Give more money.
the
Give
old
more money to
saying
the
is
government so they can send it to
Democrats
Ukraine, right?
Democrats never met a tax increase they didn't support.
Right.
That's when you talk about tax cuts for them, it's like water on a vampire. You know,
Right.
they they melt. Uh, so that's your Prop HH that's going to be coming up, and I'm just going to urge the voters to pay attention, to do their homework, and vote no on HH. And we'll be continuing this campaign to oppose this boondoggle. We're
Yeah,
not going to.
and that's the funny thing. I mean, your average voter, a lot of these propositions come up, and you're just like, "What's this supposed to mean?" What's this one about? I mean, unless if you're talking to someone who knows, who's more savvy in their political prowess, you can learn about this stuff. But that's a part of the system that's broken, in my opinion. Is they put this stuff out, and the way they describe it is very vague,
Yeah,
and it doesn't make
well,
sense. And a lot of these things, like I look them up. I'll see all these propositions. I'm like, oh, that sounds good, and then I'll Google it, and I start seeing like, oh yeah, actually, this is extremely, leftist and underhanded, and whatever the case may be. So,
well, all you have to remember is this: Tabor was put in to protect the taxpayers,
right,
and Democrats have been after Tabor for the better part of 20 years. They've been trying to find a way to undo it, but so far the voters have rejected it. Luckily, because there has been enough information out there that you know kept the voters informed about what Tabor did and what it does, and that it doesn't need to be messed with.
mm-hmm.
That needs to stay in place, because that's one thing that we have as taxpayers to keep the legislature under control.
And and here's the thing: I mean, people, a lot of Democrats, a lot of young people, college age millennials, Hispanic, those in the Hispanic community. I've got a client right now, young Hispanic woman who can't afford her, $200 a month, well, $150 a month car insurance premium. I mean, we're trying to get it down under $100 to help her be able to. I mean, we're talking about severely sacrificing a lot of coverage and doing what we can. This young person, she's a teacher, she's struggling to make payments. How in the world? My question is, how do you think? How is raising taxes going to help people in this situation? Look at where we are right now with inflation, with the restrictions on gas stoves and all these, gas cars. And the only thing that most, lower mid, and even lower class people can afford, we're putting all these crazy restrictions on, increasing taxes. How does this help the lower middle and lower class,
It
not low
doesn't.
class, but lower class? How does
Unfortunately,
this
things
help?
like this always hurt that lower
Right,
income level the most,
right,
because while they think that while the Democrats that are always looking for more money to spend on social programs and other things, they basically don't understand that the lower income people are the ones least able to afford increases to their property taxes, to the cost of living, all the things that go along with any type of tax increase or tax
yeah.
manipulation. I mean, that's
Well,
a given, and unfortunately, the people are promised the moon, and they're not delivered the moon. They're delivered a bill of goods.
right,
So,
right.
so
Well, that's my
that's
point. Is like, look at the situation we're in now. Thank you, Biden. Thank you, the corrupt left who wants to raise taxes. I mean, this is a socialist. This is the road to socialism, and the road to socialism does not liberate the lower classes and the lower middle classes. it just puts everybody in the lower class system where with the very select government few holding all of the cards, all of the chips. I mean, that's essentially communism, but that's the road that it is. Let's keep raising taxes, pinching, more bigger government and all this money. I mean, let the Ukrainian war be an example. Less than 30% is actually reaching the front lines. That is a losing war.
Oh yeah.
That war, there is no way Ukraine
Well,
is going to win. It's a money dump.
everybody knows why the money's going over there, and it's
Well, you think that, but then you see all these idiots in the mainstream media and these companies like Restream and all these other. Oh, we support Ukraine. Yeah, that's fine, but what are you saying? Like, we support victims of war, but this war is an unjust war, and it's a money dump. And if the fires in Maui are any indication that this is clearly a biased agenda, that no money's going to Maui, no aid, no help is going to our sister state to help them, but we're sending billions,
Yep.
billions,
Well,
hundreds of billions.
just look at what Biden announced the other day. He's approved $700 to go to the victims of the Maui fire. $700.
And that's
A whopping $700. You know what they're sending to Ukraine? Billions.
What was the last?
Billion.
Yeah,
billion. And when it comes out to per capita, it's like in the tens of thousands. But we can't afford to take care of our own citizens. But sure, we can send money over there. Give me a break.
The amount of money that each American is paying to fund the Ukraine war, which, by the way, the weapon, the missiles, the tanks, whatever we're sending them, is peanuts compared to the Russian.
But that's not even the whole the key point. The key point is we're a country that is deeply in debt. Where are these billions coming from to send them when we can't even pay our own debt? So it's crazy. Now I want to get in a plug for our friends at the Colorado Hispanic Republicans for their upcoming Hispanic Heritage Month. It's the first annual Hispanic Heritage Month dinner. It's going to be held on the 14th of September. Do you have that flyer?
Yeah. Here we go.
Let's put that up there on the screen for a minute. And it's going to be an event that's going to include food and music and a lot of camaraderie between folks. If you look on the screen there, it's all on there. You can also find it on the Colorado Hispanic Republicans website, and as well as Facebook. We're urging everyone to support this organization. If you can't make it, then buy a ticket anyway and just help them grow, because their mission is important. Just like the mission of this show, we're after the Hispanic voters to come over to our side and help us win elections, because it's to their benefit as well. So the 14th of December, it's going to be in Brighton, Colorado, and the flyer's on the screen there. But again, you can look that up on Facebook and or the Colorado Hispanic Republicans.org website. So hopefully we can have a good crowd there. I will be in attendance. Peter, do you know if you're going to make it or?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
When is this? This 14th of September?
Yeah, it's a Thursday night. So we're probably going to need to, we're going to do our show either before or after that hour or that day, because normally we record on a Thursday, but this is an important event, so we're gonna be going to that. So
we got the address going at the bottom of the screen. Visit www. I'm sorry, hang on. Let me change this here. It's .org.
.org.
Pardon me. Org.
Yep.
All right, here we go. There we go. .org. So that's coming up, everybody, September 14th, 6 to 10 p.m. That looks fun. That looks great.
Yep. It's gonna be a flamenco guitarist, some mariachi music, and good food and fellowship. So if you can make it up there. If not, please consider supporting the organization by just buying a ticket. That'll go to their support, and maybe give the ticket to someone that can go. However you want to do that, but it's a worthy event and a worthy organization. So I was the chairman of that organization for 10 years. Retired last January, and it's in good hands with Raymond Garcia and Greg Lopez. So hope to see a bunch of you there. If you go there and you heard it on the show, come up to me and let me know so I know what kind of influence I had. All right, so this one other topic I wanted to touch on that came up was kind of interesting is that there's some new polls out, and despite all the indictments against President Trump, it appears that the black community is paying attention more than any of them. The latest polls are showing 20% support for President Trump from the black community.
Which is up from like 6% in 2020.
Exactly.
Or like maybe 9%.
They got 8% in 2020.
Okay.
But what I've seen some videos online where they interviewed some folks in the black community, and I'm seeing some young people that are saying enough is enough. They're standing with Trump because they know that he's being persecuted wrongfully, and they can relate to that. So that's what's causing the surge, and the Democrats are apoplectic about it. And Joy Reid, it was interesting when Joy Reid saw these numbers. She was on the air saying, "Well, how many of you have black friends?" She was trying to imply that this poll was put out by white people that don't have any black friends or any interaction with the black community. So anyway, I thought that was kind of
that, and I've been seeing some of these videos that are talking about racist comments Biden has made.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Oh yeah, that was done by none other than Joe Biden. He said, "Well, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black."
And then he said, something back when Obama was coming up. He said, the first clean cut, sharp looking, intelligent looking black American or something like just.
Yeah, he said he was very articulate and clean cut.
Yeah. and I'm just sitting here. I mean, here's the thing. I grew up punk rock, like, down with the man, right?
Yep.
Biden's the man.
Yep.
He's the one with the boot on the throat. Well, not Biden. Biden has no idea where he is, but like the people behind him, Obama and the regime, they're the man. It's like they come in the guise of they promise to scratch your back right into a cage. And that's precisely what this push, the socialism, all this stuff. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to Socialism versus Capitalism. I was watching a pretty interesting video of how, capitalism. You ever heard the term "a rising tide raises all ships"? Well, that's free market. That's free society. That is capitalism. And if you look at charts on a graph, the poverty level of each American. It was more minorities had jobs during the Trump administration. The wages were climbing higher than any time in this century. Free market elevates all people. What the lie of socialism wants to make you believe is, oh, we're going to rob the rich to feed the poor. That concept does not work.
No,
That
it's
that
actually,
is not a rising tide. That with that you're increasing taxes. You steal freedoms. You increase taxes. You rob people. It's all the people that
well, it's
suffer.
actually,
You bring
you,
all people
you
down.
got
You
it a
don't
little
bring
bit,
people up.
that you got that Robin Hood phrase a little wrong. It's basically rob the poor to fund the elites. That's
Right.
basically what it's all about
Yeah,
with
rob
socialists and
well,
Marxists. That's what it's all.
and
It's all about the state. In
Right.
in a Marxist society, the state owns everything. You own nothing,
Right.
and so
Right.
that's what they want. Now, here's another little story that popped up regarding President Trump. The Fulton County Superior Judge Scott McAfee, the one you saw on TV, signed an order banning Trump from contacting his co-defendants or witnesses in the case except through his attorneys. And so he's he's limiting his social media uh, participation, saying that it's the above shall include but are not limited to posts on social media or reposts of posts made by another individual or on social media. So this is not the first time the president has been warned to limit his social media use and public statements in one of his ongoing legal battles. In uh, in U.S. District Court, the judge from the federal case in Washington, Judge Tanya Chutkan, uh, basically says she warned both sides of the case to take special care to avoid making any statements that could intimidate witnesses or prejudice the jury pool earlier this month. Now, give me a break. Washington, D.C. voted 95% for the Democrats. So there's basically a 5% jury pool there for President Trump. Give me a break. Nobody's getting intimidated. They're just afraid that uh, truth is going to go out, and somebody's light bulb is going to go off and say, "Wait a minute, this isn't right what they're doing to President Trump. Look at all the activity and evidence that's popping up against Biden, and I'm not seeing any indictments. Are you? I'm not.
No, there's no indictment. The left, they don't get indicted. They don't get canceled.
No.
It's when you go against the left.
Yeah,
That's
basic.
that's what everybody needs to understand is, when I was on I was looking at some social media on X this week, and some left thing got, some leftist got taken down. His post got taken down, and some of the people on there are saying how, oh yeah, that's awesome. No, it's not, because you can't. I don't care what side you're on. Censorship sucks for both, and if you censor one side, you censor the other. So the point is that we all, if the extreme censorship that happened on the mainstream, YouTubes and all these other places, the real corrupt, especially with the COVID, medical narrative. I mean, who knows? Me talking about this could probably get this stuff flagged because there's so much censorship around COVID and mandates and all that type of stuff. The point is you censor that, you censor everything else.
Well,
nobody wants that.
Here we speak
That's
the truth, no matter what the consequences. So,
right.
If
and we will, but it's freedom and justice for all, liberty for all,
yep.
Right? Both sides. And that's what we're fighting for. So whether you're on the left or the right, if you see any of these censorships, injustices, things of that nature going on, it might not be blowing against you today, but it will be tomorrow. And so that's the point is,
well, what I've always said, and looking back in history and what happens with socialism and communism and Marxism, the people who participated in the so-called revolution, the revolt against the Bolsheviks and the people who they perceived to be the problem, as soon as the despots took power, do you know who the first people to be jailed were? The media.
Huh.
And that's ironic because this
Right.
media here supports all of that, and they don't know what's coming for them if they're successful in turning this country into a Marxist nation. The media
Right.
will be the first ones to be silenced and jailed. And
Mm-hmm.
so all these so-called reporters and reporterettes that think that they're doing a yeoman's job in preaching this nonsense, well, they've got a rude awakening coming if they're successful in what they want to do. Now,
And
go ahead.
and so here's and so here's the big thing that, like, with all these YouTube videos I was watching with the black community supporting Trump, one thing that really stuck out to me is, like, you are powerful. And I want to tell all of our Hispanic listeners, you are powerful. And in this country, more than any country in the entire world, despite where we are right now as a nation, in the very dark place we are in our history, you have the power to change your circumstances. You have the ability and the freedom to change your circumstances. Our founding fathers were dirt poor. The fighters of the American Revolution, the victors of the American Revolution, were backcountry, tree chopping, just poor as dirt, but they were free. And that's why they won against the world's greatest military power. And so I don't care if you're rich, poor, whatever. This country is the one country in the world. You have the power to change your circumstances. Don't let the government make you a victim.
Yep.
Don't let the media make you a victim. You're not a victim. Bad shit might has happened to you. It's happened to me. It's happened to everybody. I'm not going to pretend I know what it means to be a minority in this country, but I do know what it means to struggle with mental health issues, to be in the system. I've been to jail. I've been addicted to substances and alcohol. I've endured a lot of painful stuff. I know what it means to struggle, and the government is not going to get you out of your situation and to put you in a better one.
Do you remember?
So, yeah,
You remember in the debates
you do.
what Mike Pence tried to do to Ramaswamy, saying that he was chastising him for being so young and naive
Right.
and
Yeah.
inexperienced. Do you know what the average age of the founding fathers was?
What, 30?
They were 20 somethings.
Yeah.
One of them
Yeah.
was 19 years old. Okay. So, uh, and I thought they did a pretty good job of creating the revolution and fighting against the tyranny of the crown. So,
But they wouldn't have gotten there without old Benjamin Franklin, who was like in his 70s. So you got to have the old people, but still, yeah, that's true. I mean, Washington was what, 40s, early 40s, right? During the Revolution.
no, I
I'd
think
have to double check. He might have even been in his
he
30s.
was younger than that, yeah. But the point was, and I saw this on social media. That's why I brought it up. Somebody made a meme out of it. It says, so Mike Pence thinks Ramaswamy is too young to be president. Uh, Here, and they showed uh, 7 or 8 of the founding fathers, and
Yeah.
showed their ages, and it blew my mind. I didn't even know that. I thought that was
Obama was a very, very young president, and he made a lot of change. I mean, for the worse, unfortunately.
yeah.
He's
Well, that's
the one who started this revolution. But,
a different story.
this revolution that has been going on that is now backfiring on us. But
So
yeah,
I
absolutely.
wanted to close on.
He's the youngest GOP candidate ever in history.
Yeah, I wanted to close on this breaking story that looks like uh, Vladimir Putin is getting ready to go to China, and the leader, as you know, he's been purported to be responsible for the murder of Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was the leader of the Wagner group that tried to perpetrate a coup and a takeover a couple months ago, and they weren't successful. But the current leader of that group basically said in the interview, Putin better watch his back on his trip to China. So there's some speculation that he may be in danger of being assassinated when he goes to China. That would be a very interesting development indeed. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Well, on the flip side of that, he could go over there and just climb into bed with them too,
Yeah,
and that's what we don't want.
yeah. Well, that's what they're trying to do. All right.
And I want, yeah. So real quick too on that, on the Ukraine war, on everything going on there, I want to encourage our listeners, go on to X, look up Tucker Carlson, and watch his interview with Hungarian Prime Minister um, uh, Viktor Orban. He it's got 82 something, probably closer to 90 million views at this point. But if you want a real, Hungary is a bordering nation of Ukraine.
Yep.
So if you want a real local on the ground scoop of what's going on over there with that whole war and the facade that it is, watch that interview. It'll blow your socks off and you'll get some real truth from it.
All right.
On X. But yeah, so anyways.
So let's close out with an invitation to visit our website, HispanicPatriot.com.
Yes,
If
sir.
you like what you're hearing, if you want to support our show, we need all the help we can get. So become a monthly donor, recurring donor, a one-time donor. Any kind of donor is welcomed. And we have a contact form on the website where you can give us feedback about the show, give us ideas of what you'd like to hear in future shows, and make your comments and critiques. We appreciate all of it. Keep it clean, and I will take the time to respond if you send your comments in and are respectful. So we ask you to do that. I want to close
and check out our new logo. Check out our new logo.
Check out our new logo. They're up on right above my head to the left there. It looks amazing. Our young graphic artist Peter Schmizek is a great young man who created that logo for us, and we're hoping to help promote his graphic artist business as well. So you're gonna be seeing a lot more of that logo.
Yeah, I'll get his website info and get it up on the next show at some point.
Yep.
Give him a shout out.
Well, our website is being reworked with all the new graphics, so it's going to be exciting. I want to close out with our positive quote of the day, and that would be, keep your face always towards the sunshine and shadows will fall behind you. That comes to us from Walt Whitman, a very, very powerful author and great American. So we ask you to look forward, not behind, and always look to improve your life and everyone around you. We thank you for watching. We ask you to say a prayer for the nation. We want to promote our positive side of the nation, which I believe our best years are ahead of us. So God bless you in the audience. God bless America, and thank you for watching. Good night.
All right. Night, everyone.